Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv, and we are in 2nd Chronicles. Remember, it's written in the BC era, 500 BC. They think by Ezra, but they're not sure. Contemporary with Ezra. They're in exile. This is how they're keeping the culture alive. It's written by priests who are trying to get the people to remember their story while they're away from the temple and everything else that they have that reinforces the cultural identity. Okay? Israel rebels against Rehoboam. Chapter 10, verse 1. Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all the Israelites had gone there to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard this, he was in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon. He returned from Egypt. So they sent for Jeroboam, and he and all of Israel went to Rehoboam and said to him, "Your father put a heavy yoke on us, but now lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you." Because, his father built 2 palaces and the temple. So lots of conscripted workforce. And that's really basically what it is. We don't need to be in conscripted workforce anymore. Take it away. Rehoboam answered, "Come back to me in 3 days." So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had served his father Solomon during his lifetime. "How would you advise me to answer these people?" he asked. They replied, "If you will be kind to these people and please them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants." But Rehoboam rejected the advice of the elders gave him and consulted with the young men who had grown up with him and were serving him. He asked them, "What is your advice? How should I answer these people who say to me, 'Lighten the yoke your father put on us'?" The young men who had grown up with him replied, "Tell the people who have said to you, 'Your father put a heavy yoke on us, but make our yoke lighter.' Tell them, 'My little finger is as thick as my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions." 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned to Rehoboam as the king had said. "Come back to me in 3 days." The king answered them harshly, rejecting the advice of the elders. He followed the advice of the young men and said, "My father made your yoke heavy, and I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions." So the king did not listen to the people, for this turn of events was from God, to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken to Jeroboam, son of Nebat, through Ahijah the Shilonite. When all of Israel saw that the king refused to listen to them, they answered the king, "What share do we have in David?" I know, remember, this is something that has been echoed by their ancestors before when King David was being brought up. And there were times when they were supporting him and running away, and they were inconsistent even during David's time. "What share do we have in David? What part in Jesse's son? To your tents, O Israel! Look after your own house, O David." And that's it. We do no longer recognize you as our king, and we will fight you. And there's 10 of those tribes, because the Levites are supposed to be like Switzerland for them. Neutral third party, have to serve any child of God in the same capacity, regardless of where they happen to plop themselves. The other 10 tribes, they don't have to listen to them. That's 10 times the army of one. That's a bad bet for Judah. How do you beat that? You better have more people. And that's just not possible. So he pushed the wrong people. Sometimes when you play around and you find out that people aren't playing, right? So all the Israelites went home But as for the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah, Rehoboam still ruled over them. King Rehoboam sent out Adoniram, Adoniram, that's got a footnote attached to it. In Hebrew, it's Hadaram, Hada, like Hador, Hadaram, Hadoram, which is just a variant of how it is spelled here. Who was in charge of forced labor, so that would be slave labor, okay? But the Israelites stoned him to death, because when they were done, they were done. King Rehoboam, however, managed to get into his chariot and escape to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. It's a pretty fair statement, considering their government no longer works the same way they used to. So it makes a fair statement. If you want to find out the next part of this story of what Rehoboam is going to do, because chapter 11 is also about Rehoboam, you have to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the book of 2 Chronicles, and we are in chapter 11. It is a continuation of Israel rebels against Rehoboam. And remember, this is written in the Babylonian diaspora in the 500-ish BC era, because it's a little bit closer to the later end, closer to the 600. Actually, I should really say, yeah, closer to the 600 end, like 570-ish, in that range. Because remember, they were there for quite a certain amount of, it wasn't a short amount of time. So, this is written by the priests because they no longer have access to any of the scrolls because they're nowhere near the temple, and they're trying to help everybody remember their cultural identity. So this is their story of their people, and that's why they have all the telling of the genealogy, why they have all the chronicling, because they need to write down what they could remember so they could keep everybody together. And that's one of the great things about the Jewish story in the first place, is the resiliency of the people in remembering their cultural identity that they hard fought to win and had to keep coming back to over and over again to hold together, no matter what country they end up in. Chapter 11, verse 1, when Rehoboam arrived in Jerusalem, he mustered the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 fighting men, to make war against Israel and to regain the kingdom from Rehoboam. So 9 tribes. But this word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, Shemaiah, the man of God. Say to Rehoboam, son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all the Israelites in Judah and Benjamin, this is what the Lord says: do not go up to fight against your brothers. Go home, every one of you, for this is my doing. So they obeyed the words of the Lord and turned back from marching against Jeroboam. So at least not listening to the people, but at least listening to God. So there's that. I mean, God will look upon people very favorably if he can tell you're listening to him. Rehoboam fortifies Judah, because now he's like, okay, we can't defeat them because God did this, but they're stronger than me. So now I got to make sure that we're safe. Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem and built up towns for defense in Judah: Bethlehem, Etam, Tekoa, Beth-Zur, Soko, Adullam, 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 Azekah, no, it's not, no, there's no I in there, Azekah, Azekah, Zorah, Ajalon, and Hebron. These were fortified cities in Judah and Benjamin. He strengthened their defenses and put commanders in them with supplies of food, olive oil, and wine. He put shields and spears in all their cities and made them very strong. So Judah and Benjamin were his. So Benjamin stayed with their king. The priests and the Levites from all their districts throughout Israel sided with him. The Levites even abandoned their pasture lands and property and came to Judah and Jerusalem because Jeroboam and his sons had rejected them as priests of the Lord. Remember, Jeroboam made golden calves in multiple cities and set up sacrificing and worshiping to the golden calves. Now, in Solomon's temple, there are also gold statues of bulls over and over again. In fact, that's what's holding up the bronze sea, is bronze bulls. And he appointed his own priests, this would be Jeroboam, and he appointed his own priests for the high places and for the goat and calf idols he had made. That's called, one of those, the goat one is for Molech. Molech is a gold goat. You can see an example of what that would look like in modern day. If you were to Google money goat and go take a look. Those from every tribe of Israel who set their hearts on seeking the Lord, the God of Israel, followed the Levites to Jerusalem to offer sacrifices to the Lord, the God of their fathers. They strengthened the kingdom of Judah and supported Rehoboam, son of Solomon, 3 years, walking in the ways of David and Solomon during this time. Rehoboam's family. Rehoboam married Mahalath, Mahalath, who was the daughter of David's son Jeremoth. So his cousin. Because Rehoboam is David's grandson. So the daughter of David's son, Jeremoth would be his uncle. So, yeah, that would be his first cousin. David's son Jeremoth, and of Abihail, the daughter of Jesse's son, Elab. So, that's a... And then... So then this person, Mahalath, is also of both sides of the same family. She bore him sons, Jeush, Shemariah, Shemariah, and Zaham, Zaham. Then he married Maacah, Maacah, daughter of Absalom. So, again, Absalom is his uncle, who bore him Abijah, Attiah, Ziza, and Shelomith. It's Shelomith. Rehoboam loved Maacah, daughter of Absalom, more than any of his other wives and concubines. In all, he had 18 wives and 60 concubines, 28 sons, and 60 daughters. Rehoboam appointed Abijah, son of Maacah, to be the chief prince among his brothers, in order to make him king. He acted wisely, dispersing some of his sons throughout the districts of Judah and Benjamin, and to all the fortified cities. So giving them each their own little fiefdom, so they wouldn't be fighting with each other, and making sure that the area had the rulers that he could depend on, because they're his kids, right? He gave them abundant provisions and took many wives for them. So he just tried to set them up so they could just be as pleased as they could be in their little fiefdom. And that way there would be less fighting and the need for killing each other, because nobody was getting way too much attention other than when he was making sure he was setting up to be king. So, doing the best he could to mitigate, as any parent can do in those strange conditions. And then think about, because these are all children who are also all, their parents are all first cousins. So you can imagine. That means, what that naturally means is, in the biology of these people, they are fighting some inner demons and some inner genetic battles that other people might not necessarily have to fight, because, you know, inbreeding creates birth defects, whether you can see them on the outside or not. Although, if you want to see an example of that, because it's prevalent in a lot of royal families, you can go Google the Habsburg chin and then see an example of that amongst the Celtic, actually, really more, it's the English people. You can see it there. The next video is going to be chapter 12 about Shishak attacks Jerusalem. So if you want to hear about that, you're going to have to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the Niv, and we're in the book of 2 Chronicles, and we are in chapter 12. Shishak attacks Jerusalem. After Rehoboam's position as king was established, and he became strong, and he and all Israel, you got B, that is Judah, as it has frequently in 2 Chronicles, with him abandoned the law of the Lord. Okay, because they had been unfaithful to the Lord. Shishak, Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem in the 5th year of King Rehoboam. Now, I need you to understand, whoever this person, King Shishak, is, unless there's been a complete turnover in Egypt and the royal line is no longer the royal line, this is Rehoboam, grandson of Pharaoh. So this is either grandpa, uncle, or cousin who's attacking him. Is, you know, not really any different than when all the times that, you know, France and England are coming at each other. With they attacked King Rome in the 5th year of King Rehoboam. Okay, we'll do it again. Because of the they had been unfaithful to the Lord. Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem in the 5th year of King Rehoboam with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen, and innumerable troops of Libyans, Sukkites, Sukkites, and Cushites, Cushites, and it's got a footnote of C on there. That is people from the Upper Nile region. So it's a particular region of Egypt, okay, that came with him from Egypt. He captured the fortified cities of Judah and came as far as Jerusalem. Then the prophet Shemaiah, Shemaiah, came to Rehoboam and to the leaders of Judah who had been assembled in Jerusalem for Shishak, and he said to them, "This is what the Lord says." Now, so remember, the leaders of Judah who had assembled, right? So some of those are going to be Rehoboam's own kids. "This is what the Lord says. You have abandoned me. Therefore, I now abandon you to Shishak." The leaders of Israel and the king humbled themselves and said, "The Lord is just." When the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, this word of the Lord came to Shemaiah. Since they have humbled themselves, I will not destroy them, but will soon give them deliverance. My wrath will not be poured out in Jerusalem through Shishak. They will, however, become subject to him, so that they may learn the difference between serving me and serving kings of other lands. Ooh. When Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem, he carried off the treasures of the temple of the Lord and the treasures of the royal palace. He took everything, including the gold shields Solomon had made. So King Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them and assigned these to the commanders of the guard on duty at the entrance of the royal palace. When the king went to the Lord's temple, the guards went with him bearing the shields. Afterwards, they returned them to the guard room, so they weren't taking them home. Because Rehoboam humbled himself, the Lord's anger turned from him, and he was not totally destroyed. Indeed, there was some good in Judah. King Rehoboam established himself firmly in Jerusalem and continued as king. He was 41 years old when he became king and reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes. He was 41 years old and he was listening to young people. At 41 years old, you wouldn't have been able to get me to listen to young people like that. They'd have been like, so you want to fight? Why would you start a fight that you don't really need? That doesn't make any sense. His mother's name was Naamah, Naamah. She was an Ammonite. Okay. Hold on. King Rehoboam established himself firmly in Jerusalem and continued as king. He was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel in which to put his name. His mother's name was Naamah. She was an Ammonite. He did evil because he had not set his heart on seeking the Lord. As far as the events of Rehoboam's reign, from beginning to end, are they not written in the records of Shemaiah, the prophet, and of Iddo, the seer, that deal with genealogies? There was continual warfare between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Rehoboam rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of David, and Abijah, his son, succeeded him as king. So, of course, the next chapter is about Abijah, the king of Judah. If you want to see how the priest felt about Abijah, you're going to need to come back for the next video, friends. Hello, friends. So, Bible study, the Niv, Acts, chapter 27. We are going to go through 1 through 20 today. Do you believe? Yes. There you go. 1 through 20. Yep, there we are. Right there. Okay, so Paul sails for Rome. That's what this one is called. Chapter 27, verse 1. When it was decided that we would sail for Italy, Paul and some other prisoners were handed over to a centurion named Julius, who belonged to the imperial regiment, which I suppose is why this sounds very, third person, but not. Like, as it's a first person, he's saying we, right? Like he's there with Paul, but he's not Paul. Of course, I've been informed recently that when I'm not thinking about it, I will say we when I'm talking about me and, Creator are going to go do something together. So maybe it's just like that kind of thing. We boarded a ship from, okay, so this is Adramyttium, Adramyttium, about to sail for ports along the coast of the province of Asia, and we put out to sea. Aristarchus. This is a person. Aristarchus. A Macedonian from Thessalonica. Thessalonica. Yeah, was with us. The next day, we landed at Sidon. So that's Greek, that area right there. And Julius, in kindness to Paul, allowed him to go to his friends so that they might provide for his needs. So they let him leave the ship to go visit friends. Because remember, according to the Roman people, they're like, you haven't done anything illegal. You're here for your protection. If you think you can go visit, you can, be safe and go visit those friends, go ahead. He's only on this ship because he asked to speak to the emperor. And they were like, okay. Which, can you imagine? That's because that's the equivalent for us of going, I want to speak to the president. And when does that happen? Right? From there, we put out to sea again and passed to the lee of Cyprus because the winds were against us. When we had sailed across the open sea to the coast of Sicilia and Pamphylia, we landed at Myra in Lycia. There the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing for Italy and put us on board. We made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Cnidus. And I'm saying it that way because it's C-N, which to me, because of Viking background, that's like Canute. So, I-D-U-S. So, Cnidus. When the wind did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed to the lee of Crete, opposite of Salmon. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens near the town of Lycia, or Lycia, L-A-S-E-A. Lycia. As well could be. Much time had been lost, and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the fast. Oh, after the day of Atonement, after Yom Kippur. That's a Jewish holiday of fasting. So Paul warned them, men, I can see that our voyage is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to the ship and cargo, and to our own lives also. But the centurion, instead of listening to what Paul had said, followed the advice of the pilot and the owner of the ship, which I'm going to be honest here. In most cases in life, if you are that centurion, you are going to listen to the people with the experience in the field that you're depending upon them to give you the service in. And not really going to be listening to this random Jewish man that you were just ordered to take someplace. I mean, we would have all made this choice. That kind of trust you're talking about there, that takes rapport. So that takes time. Technology disobeying in the background again. It likes to activate when I'm talking to you guys. It's used to the sound of my voice because I dictate to it. Right? So it thinks it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. I think I saw Willow in the background there. Yeah. I saw the hummingbird flying around out there. She likes to come visit. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided that we should sail on, hoping to reach Phoenix and winter there. Look at that. They wanted to be snowbirds. I live in Tucson, Arizona. There's a lot of people who come to Phoenix for the winter from other places. Snowbirds, that's what we call them. This was a harbor in Crete, facing both southwest and northwest. Well, listen, Interesting harbor. This next part is called the storm. Verse 13, with a gentle south wind began to blow. When a gentle wind, not with, when a gentle south wind began to blow, they thought they had obtained what they wanted. So they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called the nor'easter, oh, they're not going anywhere, swept down from the island. I'm familiar with the nor'easter. I grew up in New Jersey. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind. Naturally, you're not stronger than Creator. Sorry. It's just how that is. So we gave way to it and we're driven along. That's kind of funny, actually, because I was just watching. I thought I had watched the complete episode of this final episode in of Discovery, but as it turns out, apparently I just kept falling asleep, and I'd missed like 20 minutes of the end. So, because I kept put it back on. I'm like, but okay, fine, and I put it back on. But in that final episode, you actually deal with hurricane force winds. She uses the hurricane force winds to give her the lift she needs, mechanical engineering term, the lift she needs in order to climb out of the progenitor's tech to get at the thing. And then we find out that who we think is a progenitor is not really a progenitor. Isn't that interesting? As it's a bunch of portals too, into each individual world. And that was one of the things I was thinking about when I was watching that episode, because there is this one scene in which this brain just gets flung off in this world where there's the hurricane force winds are, and I'm just like, now somewhere in that world is some poor confused person going to come across this alien just that does not belong there, with his motorcycle helmet on, because you can't see the brain's face. And these look like lizard aliens, and they're just going to find him there. Out of nowhere. And they're just going to be very confused. Unless, of course, he lives, in which case they're going to be dead. And that's so great. That's wonderful. As we passed to the lee of the small island called Cauda, we were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure. When the men had hoisted it aboard, they passed the ropes under the ship itself to hold it together. Fearing that we would run aground on the sandbars of Syrtis, Syrtis, they lowered the sea anchor and let the ship be driven along, because you can't fight the wind, so you're just going to go where they are. So stop trying to fight them at all. Lower the sails so they don't get ruined. You don't need that force against your mast where you can make it crack. So just lower it and hope you survive. This is basically like, there by the grace of God go we, that you see in every movie that has a sailing ship ever. We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. He did say there was going to be a loss of property, right? On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands. So these are things that they need to repair the ship if anything breaks along the way. And they just chucked it overboard because they're afraid that, it's going to be what throws them off balance. When neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, the storm continued raging. We finally gave up all hope of being saved. So there, by the grace of God, go we indeed. And that's the thing, is we forget as we go about our life and we start thinking about what's in our control, what's not in our control, what we can do, what we can't do. right? Wanting things, standing in the room full of people who just act like garbage and going, why can't you just be better people, instead of doing something proactive like finding the room you actually belong in. The reality is our entire existence from the day we're born to the day we die is there by the grace of God. Go we. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Right? Deal with the 3D inputs that are in front of you. Keep yourself calm, centered, and looking up. It's supposed to be a one-on-one relationship between you and him. It's not supposed to be you and him and everybody else in the room. He's supposed to be like your best friend. Paul had all this protection from Jesus because the moment he understood who Jesus was, he made Jesus his best friend. And Jesus is literally the kind of best friend that is the definition of ride or die. Or in this case, ride and die. And ride some more. Right? You can't really get better than that. Can your best friend resurrect themselves to come back and protect you after they're gone? Because Paul's good. Mine can. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I am an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We're in the NIV, and we will be through 2025. In 2026, we'll start the KJV. We're trying to read a lot of different versions of the Bible and compare language differences. When they edit it, did they change what it meant? Because sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. We'll take a look at that language. So, in this video, though, we are in Psalms, Book 1. We're in Psalm 18. But Psalm 18 is 50 verses, which is a lot when it's supposed to be a poem or a song. So in this video, we're going to do verses 1 through 15. And then we will pick up tomorrow with 16 through like about 30 something. And then we'll keep going down that route. So, for the director of music, a song of David, the servant of the Lord. He sang to the Lord the words of this song when the Lord delivered him from the hand of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. He said, now, Saul was the king, first king, when Israel was all united. David wasn't the first king. Saul was the first king. He was deeply insecure. He was very, very insecure of his son-in-law, David. So, he went, crazy, literally, and David had to run. He could have killed him multiple times, and he wouldn't, because David was loyal to his king, his father-in-law. He had no desire to do anything to him. So this was he was on the run for years, hiding. Not really, not coming through sometimes there was battles, but not with Saul. Not where Saul was murdered, that kind of thing. He was trying to avoid those things. He spent more time running than fighting. He fought when he had to. And that's the important part there. Okay? So, verse 1. I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call to the Lord who is worthy of praise, and I am saved from my enemies. The cords of death entangled me, the torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple, he heard my voice. My cry came before him into his ears. The earth trembled and quaked, and the foundations of the mountains shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. Sounds like a volcano eruption. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his covering, his canopy around him, the dark rain clouds of the sky. Out of the brightness of his presence, clouds advanced with hailstones and bolts of lightning. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemies. Great bolts of lightning routed them. He always uses nature. That's one of the ways you know it's him when he's upset with you. Because if it's like that, you know, be afraid when lightning almost hits you. I would be. The valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare. At your rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath from your nostrils. So, probably a volcano, the earth trembling because the volcano was erupting. Top has to blow off. That's either really terrible coincidence, or it's absolutely as David believes, because I would be believing, if that was me, that I would be all God. If somebody was trying to chase me and suddenly a volcano erupted and then they couldn't get at me, that's all God, because no human can do that. No human can do that, and I would not. But then I'm a minister, so everything is going to be like that for me. Until tomorrow, friends.